Yo, it's your boy rydollaz, and welcome back to the channel. Apex Legends Season 20 has brought a lot of changes to the meta with the addition of an entirely new legend upgrade system. And after spending some time grinding out every character on the roster, I'm back with another tier list video for you guys. As always, I'll preface by saying my tier list is entirely subjective, and I'm not trying to offend anyone by not placing your main in S tier. And while I'm considering each legend's utility and ranked, this is not an Apex competitive tier list. Make sure to hit that like button if you do enjoy the video. Let's see if we can break 1K likes. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. All that being said, let's get into it. What I love about Apex, despite all its flaws, is that they're constantly trying to balance the game, so at this point, there are no blatantly bad legends. I don't have any legend ranked in D tier this season, which I feel is a W overall. But for me, Ballistic is still the worst legend in the current meta. He did receive a couple buffs this season where his sling weapons now have all white attachments when equipped, and his ult effect radius for allies has been increased to 90 meters from 13 meters. The latter is pretty significant to be fair, but with the addition of the legend upgrade system and his upgrade tree being painfully mediocre, his kit leaves a lot to be desired. He definitely isn't bad, I want to make that point clear, but he is also a little underwhelming with no aspect of his character design at this point warranting a pick over other options on the roster. I will acknowledge his ult being quite good, but you should not be playing a character solely for a 2-minute ability, simply put. Moving on to the next legend I've placed in C tier, Fuse. While he definitely has his utility in situations where you can nade spam and make life hellish for your opponents, he suffers from similar flaws to that of Ballistics. As much as he was used in competitive Apex in recent months, his current state doesn't warrant a pick over other options on the roster in my opinion, especially in more competitive elos. His upgrade tree is decent. I think you're gonna pick Scar Tissue, which is a change the community was calling for quite some time, and Knuckle Hustler is the obvious choice for your second set of upgrades. As a double time enjoyer, I was really excited to try this one out, but as is the case for many of these upgrade trees, they sound a lot better on paper than actual in-game impact. In fairness, Fuse definitely has his place, can be extremely useful in certain situations, and is really fun to play. And I'd much rather have a good Fuse on my team than go against a good Fuse on another team. But he has his obvious limitations, has less room for skill expression, and is a little outclassed as it currently stands. Next up in C tier, I have Octane. Octane is always difficult to rank because he's the ultimate glass cannon and possesses a very high skill ceiling and a very low skill floor. What I mean by that is, so much is dependent on the player. Octane provides great players all the requisite tools to succeed, but also provides bad players all the tools to throw or fail. But more often than not, the random Octane teammate you get will not utilize his kit correctly and fall into stereotypical Octane brain habits, pushing way too far ahead of your team into a 3-stack just to go down, ping spam, and blame it on you. To be fair, I've definitely learned to respect his ceiling more over the past few seasons. And in the right hands, he has the potential to be insane, despite having a relatively straightforward and simple kit. For his upgrade tree, you're definitely picking Thick Skin for level 2, where he takes 25% less stim damage. And for level 3, you have the choice between changing directions with the launchpad double jump, aka a pseudo tap strafe, or gaining an extra launchpad charge. To put it simply, he's hella fun, but used with caution. Up next, we have Mirage. This feels like a hot take, and there's definitely a lot more respect on his name these days, which is a W. And while his legend upgrade options piqued my curiosity, the in-game impact is subtle at best. Kinda funny if you think about it, his upgrade tree is essentially more decoys. But like Octane, he's insanely fun to play, and in the right hands can definitely be a major asset to any squad as somewhat of a hipster pick in the support class. In my opinion, a lot of his value is intangible, such as causing chaos on the battlefield, invis-reses, or even just using his decoys as a means to get early warning indicators. But like I said last season, I feel that's as far as his team utility goes. His tactical and ultimate abilities are self-beneficial, and while the legend upgrade system definitely raises his skill ceiling, he remains a little limited as it currently stands. Closing out C tier, I have Crypto. While other creators are quick to write him off, I feel like I've been a Crypto advocate for quite a few seasons now. And I still believe that in the right hands, he can be as high as A or even S tier. He received a couple quality of life updates where the speed of his drone recall was slightly increased and the transitions going in and out of his drone are now faster. His upgrade tree takes the route of improving his strengths rather than fortifying his weaknesses, the most interesting perks being his level 3 upgrade options. Personally, I feel like if they would have made these his initial set of upgrades and went a different route for level 3, it'd make him so much more interesting. While niche in terms of utility, when played at a high level, he's great. But with a skill gap as high as his, and general pace of play across all elos not necessarily favoring his strengths, I had to drop him in my rankings this season. Moving on to legends I have ranked in B tier this season. To start it off, I have Vantage. In my previous video, I wasn't exaggerating when I stated that it might finally be her time to shine. In my opinion, her upgrade tree makes her really interesting and pretty versatile with the option to scan ring consoles, especially in ranked. But her kit by design lacks overall team utility with a lot of her abilities being self-beneficial. And where she does provide team utility, her value is largely intangible. An example of that would be marking an enemy with her ult increasing damage by 15% from all sources. From my experience, my teammates aren't usually aware of that and don't always take advantage of it or give her the credit she deserves. Food for thought, and maybe a hot take, but in my eyes, Vantage is a sleeper pick in Season 20, and it'll be really interesting to see how the meta shakes out in the coming months. The next legend I have ranked in B tier is everybody's favorite, Seer. I say this on every tier list video, and I'll remind you once again that I try not to look at other creators' tier lists because I don't want to inadvertently absorb any potential influence as I formulate my rankings. That being said, I have come across some creators ranking him as high as A or even S tier due to recency bias with the sheer amount of gamers playing Seer for legend challenges at the beginning of the season. And while he is objectively annoying to play against and is once again viable, I'm not entirely sold. His upgrade tree gives you options to revert him to some semblance of quote-unquote old Seer, but being able to evade his scans is something that works against him in Season 20, and in my opinion doesn't warrant a must pick. But he's definitely playable and in a much better spot compared to last season. Up next, we have Ashe. Shout out all my Ashe mains. We're gonna gloat about this all day. Just kidding. I have her ranked higher this season than last season, and if you remember from my previous tier list video, I was calling for her to receive some buffs or even a rework given the current landscape. With the implementation of the new perk system and her upgrade tree being a W overall, she's viable once again. After some field testing, an early tip I have for choosing her level 3 upgrade option is to ask yourself how you generally deploy her arc snare and self-evaluate that aspect of your playstyle. If you generally use it to zone, greedy snare is probably the play. If you're usually looking to tether enemies directly, I'd probably say twin snares is the play. I know some Ashe gamers are disappointed her ult wasn't touched and her upgrade options don't include something like 2 charges or increased range, which is valid. But any improvement is an improvement, and this is definitely a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Moving on, we have Rampart. This one's always an interesting one for me, and once again I'm preemptively apologizing to all the Rampart mains I'm potentially offending. Firmly B tier this season isn't bad though, and to be honest, she does feel a lot better to play this season. Her upgrade tree is pretty interesting, and unlike some other legends on the roster, every upgrade option here is viable, and you can't really go wrong. Along with the quality of life update she received last season where she deploys her amp covers more quickly, I think they did a good job improving her strong suits, which in turn also fortifies her weaknesses a bit. She's exceptional at defending open space with minimal cover, and with LMGs being more viable this season, you can definitely take advantage of her passive ability. She remains a strong off-meta counter pick with a high skill floor and ceiling in Season 20. Up next in B tier, we have Newcastle. He still has game-breaking potential, and I still believe that, in the right hands, is easily high A or S tier. Unfortunately, he has an insanely high skill ceiling, and is one of, if not the most difficult legends to master on the roster. So I can't necessarily in good conscience recommend him to all players because of this barrier to entry. And all things considered, this is probably why he's the least popular legend by pick rate at this point in time. As for his upgrade options, I think they're good for sure, but it doesn't add anything unique to his character kit. Rather, they just serve as buffs to his pre-existing abilities. And save for the option to increase his mobile shield speed to weapon sprint speed, they're all defensive abilities, which kind of leaves him pigeonholed a bit. But something to consider, and I've said this before, we're all guilty of thinking damage output and total kills is what determines someone's skill or overall performance in a match. But success isn't solely defined by those metrics, especially in a BR. If you want to affect the game in a different way, Newcastle remains one of the strongest choices on the roster by far. Moving on and to close out B tier, I have Lifeline. I have her ranked above Newcastle this season because she has similar strengths, is a lot more user-friendly, and has the smallest hitbox in the game. And possessing what I think is maybe the best upgrade tree, she might be back. Her level 2 upgrade options give you the choice between increasing revive speed by 20% or reducing her tactical cooldown by 10 seconds. And her level 3 upgrade options are either gaining a self-revive or her next lifeline care package being a supply drop. Her last stand ability alone makes her super appealing, but to keep it 100, it sounds a lot better on paper than actual in-game viability, which I feel is a recurring theme here. Nevertheless, I think she's very interesting this season and adds immediate value to any squad as a strong support class pick. But if you're running Lifeline, don't forget you're playing Lifeline. Starting off A tier, I have Caustic. At this point, I feel like you should just pencil the Gas Daddy in A tier every season moving forward. He's not going anywhere. With his first set of upgrades being better than his final set, this kind of plays into his character design. Levels the playing field as an easy to use yet oppressive legend that provides immediate impact and obvious utility with insane survivability. And like I've said time and time again, despite the stigma around Caustic and Caustic gamers, he's really fun to play if you're trying to meme, and really effective if you're trying to win. While defensive on the surface, his upgrade tree, in my opinion, raises his ceiling offensively, which is important because we're in an attack-oriented legend meta right now. But yeah, any buff to him or his gas can't be ignored, and he remains a force to be reckoned with in Season 20. Next up in A tier is Gibraltar. For all the heavy rig legends this season, they now use medium rig first-person movement animations. And while actual game speeds have not changed, these legends will feel less sluggish when running. For whatever reason, this change stood out to me the most with Gibby and personally made him a lot more palatable. His upgrade tree is good and gives him some flexibility where you can choose to play him more in a support role or dare I say as a fragger. I'm serious. Nothing is more intimidating than an aggressive Gibby bubbling forward. And while he's still a defensive character first, he feels much more versatile now. Moving on to the next legend I have ranked in A tier, Catalyst. She was hit with another set of nerfs to begin the season. The lifetime of her Dark Veil was decreased by 10 seconds and the length was decreased by 15 meters. Firmly cemented in S tier and a borderline must pick the past few seasons, this is a significant nerf, which is why I've dropped her down to A tier in Season 20. And her upgrade tree serves just to revert some of the various nerfs she's received the past 2 seasons. She's still really good, just not what she once was. Despite that fact, she remains the most versatile controller class legend in my opinion. She excels at micro-rotates, knock recovery, and sieging, or in other words, attacking an enemy team's position. And her endgame value remains insane as well. She's decent at everything, has clear and obvious unique utility without possessing any glaring weaknesses. Up next, we have Wraith. She's been the premier solo no-fill legend for Apex's entire life cycle, but over the past few seasons she's also become a valuable asset to competitive squads with the utility her Dimensional Rift ultimate ability provides. But why I don't have her ranked even higher is due to most of her utility being largely situational and not consistently useful to her squad. But in fairness, I've been noticing her ult becoming increasingly more clutch, especially lately. Her upgrade tree is also designed pretty well, where it gives players the choice between self-benefit and team utility, and she's maybe the best entry fragger and scout on the roster that top players will continue to gravitate towards. For me, she remains a competitive pick in Season 20 that provides immediate impact. And like Caustic, you should probably just pencil her in at least A tier every season moving forward. Next in A tier and my highest ranked recon class legend is Bloodhound. This might even be a little low, but they've definitely risen in the legend meta back into relevance with how the landscape has changed recently. Their upgrade tree is solid, but doesn't quite revert Bloodhound back to their form before the introduction of the White Raven, when they were a must-pick legend across the board. Largely in part due to their scan lasting only 1 to 2 seconds and their ult not granting you the ability to scan every 5 seconds anymore. And even with the nerf to digital threats, hot take, I don't think they're necessarily a must-pick in non-competitive Apex. That being said, you can't go wrong running Bloodhound because they're without question the best recon class legend this season. Up next, we have Mad Maggie. I know I said Lifeline had maybe the best upgrade tree in the game, but I take that back. Maggie might have the best upgrade tree. Her level 2 upgrade options are either turning her Wrecking Ball into a Fireball, or auto-reloading her shotgun on knocks. And her level 3 upgrade options are either making her Riot Drill 50% larger, or getting a second Riot Drill charge. Actually insane, and you can't really go wrong here. I received a lot of pushback on where I ranked her in Season 19, but in my eyes, she didn't provide much team utility, especially with how consistently inconsistent her Wrecking Ball was. The good news is that her ball was buffed with the new season. It will no longer be destroyed on the first enemy hit. Instead, the Wrecking Ball will trigger an explosion, then keep going, allowing for a second explosion to trigger later. And it will now also bounce through devices it hits and destroys. I won't say it's perfect, but it's a huge step and makes her a borderline meta pick this season. Closing out A tier and my top ranked controller class legend is Wattson. Her fences have a really high skill gap for sure, but even just playing her for her ultimate with the available upgrades is valid. For level 3, you have the choice between making your interception pylon twice as good, or being able to put down 2 pylons and being able to use ult excels twice as fast. Like I said last season, I'm a firm believer in what Wattson contributes to any squad, and I'm sure we can all agree that we've been seeing a lot more aspiring Wattson players in our games as of late. She's great at defending buildings, and also excels in defending open spaces or spaces with minimal cover with what her kit provides. What she does well, she does really well. And unique in terms of playstyle and overall impact, don't sleep, all I'm saying. Some fringe S tier picks now in the A+ tier. I made one sub tier because I felt it was essential to categorize a couple legends that I feel are better than A tier, but not quite S tier. The first legend I have in this sub tier is Valkyrie. Some may argue that she should be ranked higher, and there's a case to be made in fairness. Her legend perk options allow you to modify her kit to resemble old Valk, which is why for me she's pushing S tier this season. I won't say I missed Valk, and I won't say the addition of evac towers in general doesn't impact her pick rate, but she's definitely back as a meta pick. Though she still doesn't add essential utility like she did in the past, and while she can excel in a scouting role, feels much more like a pure fragger. So at this point, not a must pick, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that change in the near future. Up next, we have the Loot Queen herself, Loba. Sorry to all my fellow Loot Goblins, I've dropped her in my legend rankings this season. Loot Goblins lament. She's still a great choice in most competitive modes, and having better loot than your opponents is still a competitive advantage. But with the emergence of Conduit in the support class and basically the entire support class being viable, I wouldn't even say she's the best pick for solo queuing ranked anymore. And maybe, just maybe, there are better ways to help your squad than just being great at looting and running away, one might say. Her upgrade options are underwhelming at best, and she's definitely fallen victim to power creep, where many legends are stronger, but she's pretty much the same. But when played as a means to an end, less time looting to take more fights, she's quite effective. And she's still a support class legend that possesses mobility, so that can't be ignored. Overall, she's in an awkward place right now, but respectfully, she's fallen just outside S tier for me. The final legend I have ranked in A+ tier this season is Pathfinder. One big change he received this season is that scanning care packages now awards a 50% ult charge instead of 100%, which, to be honest, is pretty significant. His level 2 upgrade options give you the choice between gaining access to survey beacons or to ring consoles. And to keep it a buck, I think 99% of the Apex community is picking grapple cooldown reset on knock. That's an awesome perk. And in my opinion, being able to choose between survey beacons or ring consoles for his first perk gives him a lot of versatility to where he can fill in some gaps for your team based on composition or need. While he does have a high skill floor barrier to entry, he's the best team movement legend in Apex. As a novice pathy gamer, a goal I have for myself this season is to hit a saucy grapple clip, so stay tuned. Alright, moving on to legends I have ranked in S tier, which I consider to be unequivocally the best legends in the game this season. I'll preface with the order I've ranked them is subjective, and I say that because I believe there's a case that can be made for each of them being the best in the game. You know the vibes. That being said, the first legend I have ranked in S tier is Bangalore. Perpetually B tier, the most balanced! Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. She's still great, and basically a must pick, but because digital threats got nerfed, they no longer go on SMGs, and because the care package Wingman now comes with a permanent HCOG, the playstyle of most Bangalore gamers is impacted. And why I have her ranked at the bottom of S tier is that despite her undeniable impact and utility, she's not blatantly overpowered, and at no point has been. The increase to the cooldown of her ultimate from 3 minutes to 4 minutes is essentially reverted with her first upgrade option, and her second set of upgrades give you the choice between auto-pinging enemies who trigger double time or regenerating HP while inside her smoke. The latter sounds insane on paper, but I think auto-pinging enemies who trigger double time is better. Overall, she's incredibly versatile, fits a variety of playstyles, and is one of the most fun legends to play. Next up in S tier, we have Horizon. Like Caustic and Wraith in A tier, you might as well pencil her in S tier for every season moving forward. Unless they completely obliterate her and her kit, but I don't see that happening. The devs definitely made her upgrade tree the worst overall as another attempt to better balance her character, but it doesn't matter. Her versatility is second to none, and her core strengths solidify her as a top tier legend in the game. In other words, she was busto, and she is still busto. Like, her passive spacewalk is easily a top 2 passive ability, her tactical gravity lift is easily a top 3 tactical ability, and her ult black hole is easily a top 3 ultimate ability. Maybe the best team fighting legend as well, her kit is incredibly forgiving and easy to play effectively. I've actually gotten this question on stream more than once. Is Horizon worth maining? I'm afraid to put time into her because I feel like she's going to get nerfed into the ground. Dene fast yourself. She's still insane. Up next is Revenant. I can no longer ignore how incredibly OP he is, especially paired with and essentially enabled by the abilities of another legend. As we all know, he was reworked because his old ultimate ability, Death Totem, was objectively unhealthy for the game. I think we can all agree with that. But his new reworked ultimate ability, Forged Shadows, presents a different set of issues in my opinion. Even beyond the nitty-gritty of what that ability provides him, and Conduit Q making him feel impossible to take down, it promotes a playstyle that's pretty brain dead. I'm not a Rev main, and I have a lot of respect for players like Guapi. Shout out Guapi. But the core of his character should be designed around his passive ability. Wall climbing, wall running, crouch walking faster, etc. And outplaying your opponents that way. It's unhealthy for the game when the most viable strategy in pretty much all circumstances for Rev players is to confidently brain dead ape and be rewarded in most cases. But hey, what do I know? And with his upgrade tree being mostly centered around his Shadow Pounce ability, yeah, you couldn't stop the train before, but now it's coming even faster. Easily S tier in the current meta. Ah yes, it was only a matter of time. Closing out S tier, my top ranked legend this season is Conduit. You want to talk about must picks? She is a must pick if you want to be competitive. Now we all know she was going to get nerfed to start the season, and she did. The cooldown on her Q was increased, temporary shield generation was decreased, and her ult lifetime and health was slightly reduced as well. That's all good and fine, but she's still busted, and this should paint a picture of how game-breaking she ended up becoming in Season 19. And her upgrade tree stands to further improve her game-breaking strengths. To be fair, I do appreciate the idea of Conduit, a support class legend that promotes prioritizing your teammates and actually monitoring their health and whereabouts. I think that's a W, and what the community needed. But instantly healing for free is not great character design, and it doesn't really make sense that you have to dump an entire mag to destroy one of her jammers, but only a bullet or two for a Caustic Barrel or a Watson node. Personally, I'm less bothered by her than, say, Seer Valk or Horizon on release, but I fully expect her to receive waves of nerfs in the future. As always, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. While I think it's worth noting and being aware of the current legend meta, at the end of the day, these are just my opinions. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there are no bad legends. For example, if you're a great Mirage player and are a terrible Bangalore, but are playing her solely because she's quote unquote meta, you're not going to get value out of playing her. You know what I mean? Play who's fun and play who you like. Any legend is S tier in the right hands. Let me know in the comments who your original Apex main was and the season you started playing. Genuinely curious. Hopefully this tier list helps you, and I'll see you in the next one.